I guess what made me enroll in professional wrestling at Battle Arts was when I was 3, 4, 5 years old and running around with Crayola marker on my face, done up to look like the Ultimate Warrior, and a towel over my shoulders as a cape, and Crayola safety scissors to mimic Brutus the Barber Beefcake. At that point, yeah, I thought being a wrestler was possible. The very first day that Battle Arts Academy opened, I walked in the front door and I said, I'm here to be a professional wrestler. I'll always remember Anthony looking at my registration form and seeing my last name and saying, oh, McRae, that's a good Italian name. And then we went from there.
McRae is an interesting case. This is someone who walked in, literally a fan. Skinny guy, just loved wrestling, wanted to be a part of it. And I've had the pleasure to watch this guy develop into a professional wrestler, he's a blue belt in judo. His body is changing. And from that kid that walked in on day one to the man he is now, the transition has been incredible. Traditionally, in the past, they wanted these big guys, and there wouldn't have been a lot of opportunities for him in the big leagues. But now with 205 and NXT and the way he's developing, he has a real legitimate shot at making it somewhere and making a living and entering the world of paradise and traveling and wrestling. So his development it makes me proud as a coach because I feel like I've had a hand in his development.
Well, I'm very proud of him. I can get a little bit nervous at some of the moves, and mostly and excited for him. I'm probably one of his biggest fans.
That night he won the championship belt. He came out of the ring and hugged you.
That's right.
What was that moment like for you?
It was very, very, very emotional. Yes, it was very emotional. I was also thinking not only of Andrew, but certainly of his father, who had, passed away a few years previously, and how proud he would have been.
Freedom Wallace has certainly evolved over his few years of existence. But in the beginning, trying to figure out who I would be, I went with my heritage. So, okay, I'm Scottish. My dad was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. The first name I settled on was Rampant Ronnie Wallace. He was like the Scottish hero that fought against all odds, much like the Scottish did against the English. And then there is a young kid who has been at many of the shows over the few years that we've been having them. And because I would say Freedom all the time, he started calling me Freedom just because he didn't know any better. And so I said, you know what, kid? You're onto something there. I'm going to run with that. So then I became Freedom Wallace.
Because tonight, it's going to be off with their heads. Ain't that right, cousins?
I now have a couple of my cousins by my side. So there's Bradford Montague and Ollie Wallace, who I supposedly have flown in from Scotland back home. But that's really an ode to me having grown up with my cousins as the influences on me in terms of getting me into professional wrestling, and then the younger cousins play wrestling with them. And it was my cousins that were the only other ones into wrestling. So to have my cousins by my side now while I'm in the ring, that's a nod to my actual cousins. Having gotten into a WWE match after all these years and having it happen somewhat out of nowhere, it has made me do a lot of thinking, because in that initial WWE match, I wound up getting hurt, getting concussed for real, which was unfortunate, but it doesn't really take away from how amazing the experience itself was. It was like the scene at the end of The Wizard of Oz where they pull back the curtain on the wizard. I saw what it was, and I saw what it would be like to live that way, and I saw the types of people that live that way, and I saw how big the types of people that live that way are. And I was there in the mix. I was standing there in my gear, waiting to step up into the gorilla position. I stood in gorilla, waiting for my cue to go out down the ramp. I walked down the ramp into the ring in the Bell Center in Montreal, ironically where my childhood came crashing down when they screwed Bret Hart. And I stood there in the ring in the arena with 15,000 people around me. And I took a moment to take it in, and it really was like, holy smokes, I made it. Like, they might be calling me the local competitor, and I might be nameless, but that moment was the culmination of everything so far. So in 1 year, I see myself wrestling. And in 5 years from now, I see myself wrestling. After that, I'm not sure.
You're looking at something special.